Hello and welcome to Watch Me. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Zelos Mako limited edition with the crystallized titanium dial. This just came out a few weeks back and it sold out pretty quick. This is my first Zelos. I haven't actually owned one before. Let's take a closer look to see what it offers. Now the Zelos Mako typically comes in a titanium case and bracelet, and it kind of made a name for itself because of that. This particular iteration of it is actually a steel variant. It's a steel case and a steel bracelet. The unique selling point rather of this limited edition is that it has a titanium dial which has a very unique effect. This is done in a way that it shows the crystalline structure of the metal, and it is anodized blue to give a blue kind of almost like a glittering shiny blue effect to it, and it works pretty well in person, although I must say it did look a little brighter in the picture than it does in real, simply because the dial is actually quite reflective. If you see, it's not just the crystal, the dial itself is quite reflective, so when you actually hold it up against duller light, the dial's texture kind of tends to fade away a little bit. So you would have to look a little closer, or have, like if you see my ring light pointing directly at the dial, you can see the crystalline structure really pop out. So yes, the effect is really cool, but it does require a little bit of a keen eye to look closely and catch the details. Let's go over the specs really quickly first as well. So this is a 40 millimeter case, and 46 millimeter lug to lug, which is actually quite compact, and it also has a flat case structure where the bracelet attaches and where the strap would attach, and that kind of helps a little bit with playing the dimensions down, and it can give you a semi-integrated look with some of the other straps. Even with the bracelet, if you see, it looks a little more integrated than a lot of the other designs. The case thickness is around 11.5, but I believe that does not include the crystal, and this is a fairly thick domed crystal that's on the watch. Not entirely sure if it has any anti-reflective coating. This actually is one of the more reflective watches I've had, and like I said, I don't know if I should blame the dial or the crystal in this case, because I haven't actually owned any of the other colors. So let me know in the comments if you have a white dial Mako or any of the other dial colors. If you have this level of reflection on the watch, to me it looks like dial is the culprit here more than the crystal. What's also cool about this watch is the steel bezel. Usually the Mako series comes with the ceramic or TI bezel, and I believe this is a steel bezel, and it is also a loomed bezel. Here's a shot showing the loom on this watch, and it is among the best I've seen from a Microbrand. This is seriously terrific loom. It charges up really quickly, and it's super bright and very evenly applied. So credit to them for high quality loom on the watch. Also, as you can see, the crown is at the 4 o'clock position, and if you see, it's actually a very subtle sort of a crown guard here. It's built into the case. It kind of sticks out like an or two to help protect the crown from this angle, because that's usually the angle you'll end up knocking the crown. The odds of you hitting the crown this way are fairly slim. So it's nice to see a crown guard that's not too obvious, doesn't jut out. And another super cool touch here is the loomed logo. I actually think more manufacturers should start doing this. This is really cool. It's not exactly a place where you're going to get a lot of light to get it charged, but when you do, it has a very cool effect. With regards to the case finish itself, a decent amount of contrasting finish going on here. You can see brush sides, which I'm a big fan of on tool sports watches. I don't think tool watches should have polished sides. I've mentioned that before in my videos. So thanks Zelos for putting brushed finish on the side. Good to see a little bit of contrast here. Not exactly super finely finished. It is nice to see them put some effort into contrasting finishes on the bottom and the top to help catch light. So this is on both sides. The bezel is actually fairly evenly finished, no polished parts on the bezel here, and the bezel action very slight play, not all that clicky, decent bezel action I would say. 9015 movement from Miyota here. It's become the new I would say standard for Microbrands in this price range. Earlier it was the Celita, before that it was the ETA. Now 9015 has really picked up, and a lot of Microbrands are going with the 9015. It's a super reliable movement. It's every bit as good as the Celita movement. So there is no reason to rank this lower or higher than the equivalent Celita. It's a good movement to have in a watch like this. Winding action is pretty decent. It's not butter smooth, but it's not rough. It feels good. I don't feel any coarseness. This movement hacks as well. The finishing on the threads looks pretty good. Looks like the screw-in mechanism will be pretty good and reliable to use, and easy to use as well. As you can see, I didn't have to fiddle around to find a position to screw it back in. Good to see that. Yeah, so let's move on quickly to the bracelet. I have mine that is still on the tape because I kind of haven't decided if I want to wear it on this bracelet. I'm in two minds. It is nice to see that it is a fairly modern looking clasp. It doesn't look like one of those cheap stamped clasps. As you can see, this allows a bit of micro adjustment for the bracelet, which is good to see. An integrated micro adjustment is something very, very modern, and I would say it's almost required in sports watches, these dive watches these days. So it's good to see that. Bracelet finish actually looks pretty decent, I must say. It feels good on the hand. The metal feels decent. I am not a fan of the end links on this though. If you see the detail on the last link that attaches to the watch, kind of cheapens the look a little bit. I wish they had a little more definition on this last piece. If you were to hold it up and hold the watch, everything looks nice and pristine and fine, and then this kind of gives it away. It has a cheaper look, and these lines and the way the brushing is, it doesn't feel like it fits the quality of the rest of the watch, and that's a little bit of a bummer. I wish this was better made or a better defined and more refined as such. It does look like it should be fairly comfortable on the bracelet, as you can see how it looks on my 6.25 6.5 inch wrist. Wears nicely, bracelet tapers beautifully, doesn't stick out anywhere. Nice clean look for a 40mm diver. Here's the same watch on a rubber strap. Now this is strap from another competitor in the space, from the SEALS Seastorm. Very nice quality rubber strap with the quick release that they had with the watch. I quite like this look. It looks pretty sharp on this as well, and even on the wrist, as you can see, the end, the lugs being short really help with the look of this watch, and it wears very nicely. So 20mm lug width is a big plus. You can play around with this quite a bit. Very easy to fit straps, and I think NATO will fit quite fine as well, because as you can see, the spring holes are all the way in the edge, leaving you a decent gap to fit in a NATO strap. Here's the SEALS Seastorm I had mentioned previously. This is the strap that the Seastorm came on. This is on a kind of a canvas style strap that I had found in my watch box. I think it looks pretty sharp on this watch, by the way. So SEALS Seastorm, again, if you haven't heard of them, Microbrand, they use 9015 movement as well. Nice 39mm diver here with domed sapphire crystal and very similar specs overall. As you can see, they're like direct competition to each other in terms of what they're doing, but the aesthetic is quite different. I think Zelos is going for a slightly modern kind of look, and SEALS is going for a slightly more traditional old school look. But build quality, overall fit and finish, honestly, if I have to be very critical, I'd say the SEALS has the edge there a little bit. If you can see the edge definition and the brushing quality, it's a little nicer feeling on the Seastorm, and even the bezel action, I like the sound here. It sounds good. The springiness of it, the sound, the click action, it feels nicer on this than the Zelos. And even the markers, if you can see, the finish on the markers are quite nice, very almost high-end looking on the SEALS, and it's almost unbelievable this is a $600 watch. But I must say the kind of the one big drawback with the SEALS watch is this crystal, and I love the wet look that the crystal gives, a very vintage wet look, but it is reflective. Again, it has the same problem. I don't think it has AR coating. If it does, it's not very good. So both watches kind of suffer from reflectivity. It's just one of those unfortunate things, but hey, you can't get everything for this price, right? You have to make some compromises. So there you go. If you want a 40mm diver, pick either one. They're both very well made. Pick the one that you like in terms of the design. You can't really make a wrong decision in this. It's more personal preference. I don't think there is a clear winner here. There are some pros and some cons, but that's my quick overview of the Zelos Mako. So see you guys. Cheers. Thank you. Bye bye.